Egypt's President el-Sisi and France's President Macron discuss Gaza mediation and reaffirm support for Palestinian statehood. Palestinians crowd Gaza soup kitchens as hunger deepens amid ongoing crisis. Clashes continue on Thai-Cambodian border as hundreds flee to shelters in Preah Vihear. Good evening, this is Q News and I'm Mark Summers. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received a phone call today from French President Emmanuel Macron, reaffirming strong bilateral ties and joint efforts to support Gaza mediation and Palestinian statehood. According to presidential spokesman Ahmed Fahmy, the call reaffirmed strong bilateral ties and a shared commitment to build on the momentum of Macron's recent visit to Cairo, particularly in economic and investment cooperation. The two leaders discussed Egypt's efforts to mediate a Gaza ceasefire and facilitate detainee exchanges, stressing the urgent need for effective humanitarian aid to civilians in the Strip. Macron voiced France's full support for Egypt's mediation, and both sides reiterated the need for a just solution to the Palestinian issue based on international legitimacy. President el-Sisi welcomed Macron's announcement that France will formally recognize the state of Palestine at the UN General Assembly in September, calling it a step toward implementing the two-state solution and achieving lasting peace. The Council of Muslim Elders, chaired by Al-Azhar's Grand Imam, praised Egypt's historic role in supporting the Palestinian cause. It condemned smear campaigns aimed at undermining Cairo's steadfast stance on Palestine. The Council of Muslim Elders, under the leadership of Grand Imam Dr. Ahmed El-Tayeb, has commended Egypt's pivotal and long-standing support for the Palestinian cause. The Council expressed deep appreciation for Egypt's unwavering political, diplomatic and humanitarian backing for Gaza and the Palestinian people. It denounced an unjustified accusation and attempts to question Egypt's efforts, reaffirming that Cairo's actions reflect a profound commitment to Arab and Islamic unity. The Council also praised Egypt's ongoing efforts to achieve Palestinian reconciliation and unity in the face of current and future challenges. It further called on the international community and key powers to support Egypt's and Arab states' efforts to secure a just and lasting solution for Palestine. Egyptian sources have stated that 117 aid trucks have entered Gaza via the Zakim and Kerem Abu Salim crossings. That comes as part of Egypt's ongoing efforts to deliver humanitarian relief to the besieged Gaza Strip. Earlier, Egyptian sources reported trucks entering on Wednesday and Thursday. In total, 161 trucks crossed from Thursday night into early Friday, while 166 entered between Wednesday and early Thursday through the same crossings. The aid included flour, baby formula and food, and has reached Gaza for a third consecutive day. Egypt and Qatar have reaffirmed their relentless mediation efforts in Gaza, aiming to end the war, alleviate humanitarian suffering, protect civilians and facilitate detainee exchanges. In a statement by Egypt's foreign ministry, Egypt and Qatar reported progress during the recent intense three-week negotiation round, emphasizing that temporary pauses for consultations are normal in complex talks. Both countries condemned misleading media leaks that undermine negotiation efforts and called on international media to responsibly highlight Gaza's unprecedented suffering without jeopardizing peace efforts. In partnership with the United States, they remain committed to achieving a comprehensive ceasefire agreement. Palestinians crowded a soup kitchen in Gaza City today, desperately seeking food as the humanitarian crisis worsens across the besieged enclave. Gaza medical officials said 9 more people, including children, died over the past 24 hours due to malnutrition and starvation, raising the recent death toll from hunger to dozens in just a few weeks. International aid groups warn of a full-scale famine, saying that mass hunger has taken hold among Gaza's 2.2 million residents. Humanitarian supplies had been cut off entirely in March before limited access was restored in May under new Israeli restrictions. Aid officials say the relief reaching Gaza remains far below what is needed to meet the soaring needs. 5-month-old Zainab Abu Halib has been laid to rest today after dying from severe acute malnutrition. That's according to doctors at Nasser Hospital in Qnews. Born full-term with no underlying conditions, Zainab's health declined rapidly due to a lack of specialized formula and mounting complications. Pediatric Chief Ahmed El Farah said the infant suffered from dehydration, sepsis, and a worsening condition that went untreated due to medicine shortages. The World Health Organization says 21 children under 5 have died from malnutrition in Gaza so far this year, amid growing alarm over starvation and lack of humanitarian access. Palestinians in Gaza are enduring worsening hunger with long lines for food and growing desperation as the blockade continues. At a meal distribution site in central Gaza, refugees waited for hours to receive food, holding up empty containers as volunteers rushed to serve them. A father from Nusrat camp said he stands in line from morning to noon just to feed his children. Gaza health officials reported 9 more hunger-related deaths, raising the toll to 122 since October. UN agencies warn of a worsening crisis as food and medicine remain critically scarce under Israel's blockade. Gaza-based health authorities have announced that the death toll from Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip has climbed to over 59,700 and over 144,400 being wounded. Gaza-based health authorities have reported that Israeli military operations in Gaza had killed 57 Palestinians and injured 512 in the past 24 hours. Displaced Palestinians were attacked while gathering for aid at a US-backed distribution site in Rafah in southern Gaza. A US-funded aid initiative in Palestine's Rafah, organized by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, ended in chaos after women arriving for food assistance were met with pepper spray, tear gas, and stun grenades. It was the first women-only distribution effort since the war began, but the scene quickly turned violent. Witnesses reported heavy crowding and panic as the aid operation was abruptly halted. The World Food Programme says nearly a third of Gaza's population is going without food for days, with over 90,000 women and children in urgent need of treatment. Now, for more on this, we cross over to our newsroom with Mona Maselhi. Mona Maselhi.
Yes, thank you so much, Mark. And for further analysis, we're joined from Cairo by Editor-in-Chief of Al-Akhbar daily newspaper, Dr. Osama Saeed. Good evening to you, sir, and welcome to Qnews. Let me here start by asking you, how significant is France's pledge to recognize Palestine at the UN General Assembly, and what impact could it have on the two-state solution?
Absolutely. The French resolution to opt the Palestinian status and a step in the right path, as France is a very important European country that has a great or a clear impact in the EU, as France to join by recognizing the independent Palestinian statehood is a great gain through the trajectory of the two-state solution. And that will be particularly before the Israeli actions against the Palestinians. Certainly, the French stance that would encourage other European countries to be on board in recognizing a very independent Palestinian state. In addition, that would represent a pressure to the Israel and along with this effort to abort the two-state solution. France has a very past a supportive decision to Israel, and today is taken a very historical decision by recognition of Palestine that has a great impact in the international arena, along with the General Assembly of the United Nations, particularly that France is one of the 5 UN permanent members by taking an opt of taking the recognition of the Palestinian state, and I think it is a great win that we could build on it.
Now, what role is Egypt playing in mediating the Gaza ceasefire, and how is that being recognized regionally and internationally?
Absolutely. Cairo is taking a very important and significant role with this regard. Egypt had a very clear vision from the day one, as this crisis cannot be solved or resolved militarily. Military actions only would lead to more escalation. Therefore, Egypt from the first moment reaffirms the political solution and seriously to get engagement in negotiations. Egypt therefore plays several roles with this regard, particularly mediations with Qatar along with the US, and or to join with other powers to practice their pressure upon Israel by asserting to have a solution to end the war. But unfortunately, up till this moment, the Israeli reluctance, Israel's rejection in the last moment in reaching an agreement would disrupt in reaching a truce, and then would be having a renewed attempt to engage to other negotiations along with its support by the United States. Despite all these obstacles, Egypt is very much to insist to complete the trajectory of mediation and to call upon to the logic and wisdom in managing such a crisis based on a very solid belief by the Egyptian state that peace is the only real solution to the future of the region, and to ignite conflict and to engage in uncalculated military maneuvers are very much serious to threaten the Middle East. So they have no place to build a peaceful Middle East, but through avoiding the political or rather the military conflicts in the region.
Well, with Egypt's pushing with its humanitarian aid and aid starting to flow and resume through the Zakim and Karim Abu Salim, how does this make a difference on the ground in Gaza?
Absolutely. The humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip is very dire. Probably it is the worst humanitarian crisis in the world since the World War II. And even the Palestinian suffering is overwhelmed compared to what has been taking place in the World War II due to the siege in dealing with the Palestinian. Humanitarian aids by Egypt delivering to Gaza is only a drop in the ocean that's required by the needs of the Strip, but it's a very important initiative and a lifeline to deliver the Strip of the basic needs and to abet in lifting the suffering from the Palestinian people. Certainly, Egypt is very much realizing the significance of delivering such aid. Since the first moment is pressuring into the humanitarian aid, and we should remember the Israeli statement at the beginning of the crisis and following the October the 7th by vowing not to deliver or enter any sort of aid into the Strip. But thanks to the Egyptian effort, have managed to deliver such aid as it is not only a humanitarian right for the Palestinian people, but it is a means to support their resilience and to abort the Israeli schemes. In return, dedicated all the available sources, either from the land, the sea, and the air, to deliver the aid.
Then let me here ask you, sir, what are the main hurdles preventing sufficient humanitarian access into Gaza? Who's behind that? And of course, that is despite all the international appeals and Egypt's logistical efforts.
Absolutely, the Israeli rejection and reluctance is the main obstacle that hinders the delivery of such aid. Israel has several crossings linked to Gaza, but deliberately closing this crossing. In addition, that occupying the Palestinian side of Rafah crossing as the only and the sole crossing that Israel wasn't control its both sides. So it's trying to refrain all the means of delivering such aid. Certainly, delivering aid is a dire priority in this time where the residents of the Gaza Strip is facing a real genocidal war. So for the international community to pressure in adopting a very accredited mechanism with no interference by Israel, free lines should be provided to let the aid delivered throughout the Strip, not only through the areas controlled by Israel. And we've already seen the failed experience that Israel pursued to execute by the GHF that has been transferred to an instrument to collectively kill the people for those who are seeking to keep them alive or to maintain the minimum of the basic needs that would guarantee to have the life for the babies and civilians that they are suffering very systematic way by the Israeli occupation forces.
Right. Finally here, how do you assess the coordination between Cairo and Paris, particularly in balancing diplomacy with humanitarian priorities in the Gaza crisis?
Absolutely. There is a French-Egyptian coordination along with several European regional countries, as Egypt is believing, by building in a very strong front to exercise pressure and to put an end of the humanitarian deteriorations, as we've seen throughout the last visit of the French President Macron to Cairo, and as Egypt managed for the French President to Al-Arish, that managed him to explore the Egyptian effort to deliver such aid by meeting the Palestinian patients on their way to receive their medications by the Egyptian hospitals. All this would improve the humanitarian situation and to pressure upon Israel by easing the hinders played down by Israel, and delivering the aid should be the ultimate priority and shouldn't be projected by Israel to use its starvation as an instrument to pressure the Palestinians to go out of Gaza.
Well, that was Dr. Osama Saeed from Cairo, the editor-in-chief of Al-Akhbar Daily newspaper. Thank you so much for joining us here on Qnews. And now back to you, Mark, to our studios. Mark.
Thank you, Mona. Mona Maselhi there in our newsroom. Now, families in Gaza mourned at Al-Shifa Hospital after 21 Palestinians were killed in Israeli attacks, including civilians seeking aid. Airstrikes struck multiple areas in Gaza today, killing at least 21 people. That's according to Palestinian medical sources. 13 of the dead were reported seeking humanitarian aid when they were targeted. The Israeli army claimed it struck a missile launcher in Gaza City after troops came under attack. The assault on Gaza began after the October 7th attacks. Since then, almost 60,000 Palestinians have been killed and large parts of the enclave devastated. Thousands rallied outside the British Prime Minister's office protesting Gaza's deepening food crisis with a noisy show of pots and pans. Around 2,000 to 3,000 protesters blocked London's Whitehall district yesterday, banging pots and pans to protest famine-like conditions in Gaza. The demonstration, sparked by harrowing images of starving children, halted traffic and trapped a tourist bus near Downing Street. Gaza's health ministry says 9 more Palestinians died from hunger in the past 24 hours as the food crisis continues to worsen. Meanwhile, in Chile, a caravan of around 100 vehicles moved through downtown Santiago last night, waving Palestinian flags and wearing the traditional keffiyeh scarf in solidarity with the Palestinian cause. The demonstrators urged the Chilean government to cut ties with Israel, which they described as a genocidal state. That's according to protester Lali Flores from the collective Oriente for Palestine. The event was organized by Club Palestino, representing Chile's Palestinian community, the largest outside of the Arab world. The protest highlighted the deepening humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The UN World Food Programme says nearly a quarter of Gaza's 2.1 million residents face famine-like conditions, with rising cases of acute malnutrition and reports of starvation deaths, including children. Now let's get the latest developments in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russia says it has taken control of 5 settlements in the past week, while Ukraine reports repelling multiple Russian assaults. Russia's defense ministry says its forces have seized 5 settlements over the past week and launched joint strikes on Ukrainian defense sites, airfields and drone facilities. The Black Sea Fleet reportedly destroyed 4 Ukrainian unmanned boats, while air defenses intercepted hundreds of drones and multiple missiles. Meanwhile, Ukraine's military reported 85 combat engagements, with the fiercest battles centered around Pokrovsk. Russia launched a major overnight attack on Ukraine's Dnipro region, killing 3 and wounding several others. President Zelensky vowed retaliation. Ukraine says Russia fired 235 drones and 27 missiles in a massive overnight assault. The strikes hit homes and businesses in Dnipro and nearby areas, killing 3 people and injuring 6. The Ukrainian Air Force said most of the drones and missiles were intercepted, but 35 hit 9 separate sites. President Volodymyr Zelensky warned Russia will face consequences, saying military facilities and airports will now become targets. Ambulances in Russia's Belgorod region are now being fitted with protective cages to shield them from drone attacks. That's according to local officials. Belgorod's regional governor, Vyacheslav Gladkov, says 9 ambulances have been reinforced with metal cages, nicknamed barbecues, to reduce the risk from drone strikes in border towns. The move follows earlier steps to install drone detectors and electronic warfare systems on vehicles. The Belgorod region borders eastern Ukraine and has been under a federal emergency since mid-August last year, following a wave of cross-border attacks. The area remains under a counter-terrorism operation first declared on August 9th, 2024. Clashes along the Thai-Cambodian border have now entered a 3rd day, forcing hundreds of Cambodians to seek shelter in makeshift camps across Phra Vihir province. Families gathered under plastic tarpaulins while Thailand closed most crossings, allowing only emergency medical cases. Both countries have accused each other of provoking the violence, calling for urgent negotiations while claiming self-defense. And it's a superhero showdown at the summer box office. DC Studios' rebooted Superman faces off against Marvel's Fantastic Four First Steps, as both franchises fight for dominance and fan loyalty. The battle between comic book titans has reached the box office, with DC Studios' newly rebooted Superman already soaring past $432 million globally since its July 8th debut. Directed by former Marvel filmmaker James Gunn in his first DC Studios outing, the film opened to a strong $125 million opening weekend. Now, Marvel's Fantastic Four First Steps enters the arena, hitting cinemas on July 25th. It's projected to earn between $115 million and $135 million in its opening weekend. Critics are weighing in, with Superman scoring 83% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, while Fantastic Four edges it out at 89%. At San Diego Comic-Con, fans in costume shared their bets. Some favored Marvel's broader universe and upbeat tones, while others praised DC's darker style and the return of iconic characters. Pictures from Comic-Con there. Now, for the first time in its 94-year history, Chester Zoo in northwest England has become seen the birth of a rare snow leopard cub. Newly released footage shows the cub taking its very first steps inside an enclosure under the watchful eye of its mother, Nubra. The cub was born on June 10th to 3-year-old first-time parents, Nubra and Yashin. The pair were matched earlier this year as part of an international conservation breeding program aimed at protecting the endangered species. Nubra and her cub there. Just before we go, time for a recap of the main headlines this evening. Egypt's President El-Sisi and France's Macron discuss Gaza mediation and reaffirm support for Palestinian statehood. Palestinians crowd Gaza soup kitchens as hunger deepens amid ongoing crisis. And clashes continue on the Thai-Cambodian border as hundreds flee to shelters. And that's all for this evening. Don't forget, if you want some more news, you can go to our social media platforms at Qnews EGY to stay informed. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more updates on Q News and enjoy the rest of your Saturday night.